Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with charm stories. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section. Also generously hit the like button cause it means the world to us. Please sit back, relax and enjoy as we dive into the story. Clara's laughter always brightened the small cottage nestled in the suburbs. From dawn until dusk, the soothing hum of her voice filled the rooms with optimism. Sophia remembered every nuance of that voice, the way it rose in gentle encouragement when she faltered, and the tender lullaby tone Clara used when putting her to bed. The warmth Clara exuded made their modest home feel like a fortress of love and resilience. Though their resources were few, Clara taught Sophia that inner wealth, kindness, perseverance, and self-belief mattered far more than material comforts. One bright spring morning, Clara carefully opened a tiny box, unveiling a simple yet elegant ring. Its band was forged from silver, and the small gemstone, though not grand, sparkled under the sunlight. She placed it in Sophia's hand, explaining it had been passed down in their family for generations. "This ring reminds me of all the women who came before me," Clara said, her voice cracking slightly. "They struggled, they overcame, and they lived with integrity. I want you to have it now, so that you will remember who you are when life feels overwhelming." Sophia's eyes brimmed with tears as she clutched the precious heirloom. Even at 10 years old, she understood that its value transcended any monetary sum. The ring was symbolic of an unbroken chain of resilience and love. She slipped it onto her small finger, and although it was too big, she promised to safeguard it until it fit perfectly. Clara smiled, relieved and proud, before placing a gentle kiss on Sophia's forehead. Their loving bond only strengthened after her father, Victor, came home that evening. He was a quiet man with broad shoulders and kind eyes, whose main joy in life was seeing his wife and daughter content. "So, has your mother bestowed her biggest treasure upon you?" he teased, giving Sophia's shoulder a playful squeeze. His face grew serious as he knelt down to her level. "I know how important that ring is to your mother. You must never forget its meaning." Sophia's heart swelled as she looked from her father to her mother, both smiling encouragingly. She felt the weight of the ring on her hand, not in a burdensome way, but in a grounding way. It was as if the ring tethered her to a lineage of strong women. Victor patted her back, and Clara nodded. Together, the three of them formed an unspoken pact, that come what may, their family would always stand as one. Their household might have been small, but love radiated in every corner. A few years passed, and Clara's health began to deteriorate. What started as a persistent cough soon escalated into constant fatigue and discomfort. At first, she shrugged it off, saying she just needed more rest. Victor and Sophia grew worried, encouraging her to see a doctor. A wave of unease settled over their home when they learned Clara had a serious illness. The doctors tried everything they could, but the harsh reality was that no cure existed for her advanced condition. During her final days, Clara held Sophia's hand, the ring glinting softly in the dim light of the hospital room. Her voice was frail, barely above a whisper. "Sophia, you have that ring for a reason. Whenever you feel lost or hurt, remember that you carry with you the spirit of every strong woman who wore it before." Tears filled Sophia's eyes, and Victor's voice wavered as he tried to offer reassurance. But the atmosphere was heavy with impending loss, and no words could truly lighten it. When Clara passed, the heartbreak was immeasurable. Victor became Sophia's source of comfort, reminding her every day that Clara would live on in their memories and through that cherished ring. Sophia promised herself she would never let her mother's legacy fade into oblivion. She wore the ring close to her heart as she navigated life without Clara. With each day, her determination to honor her mother grew, even though the storm clouds of grief often darkened her path. Still, amidst the sorrow, she had one solace: Clara's final words. "You will never be alone," her mother had said, "for love endures beyond the boundaries of life." At night, Sophia cried into her pillow, clutching the ring, and envisioning her mother's warmth wrapping around her. She was unaware then that this promise of love and resilience would be tested in ways she could never have imagined. In time, Victor began to laugh again, although the sorrow in his eyes never fully vanished. He remained a devoted father to Sophia, ensuring she felt secure and loved. Yet, loneliness crept into his heart, and eventually, it guided him toward Olivia, an elegant, sharply dressed woman with a disarming smile. Sophia remembered the day she was introduced to this newcomer. It was a sunny afternoon, and Victor stood beside Olivia in the living room, his hand gently cradling hers. "Sophia, I'd like you to meet someone special," Victor began, though there was a slight quiver in his voice, hinting at his own nervousness. Olivia flashed a wide smile that highlighted her high cheekbones. For a moment, Sophia believed Olivia genuinely cared. The woman stepped forward, opened her arms, and embraced Sophia. It was a bit too tight, too quick, but Sophia reminded herself that her father deserved happiness, so she tried to remain open-minded. Over the following weeks, Olivia made a concerted effort to win Sophia's trust. She would prepare extravagant dinners, fill the house with fresh flowers, and compliment Sophia on her schoolwork. Victor seemed buoyed by Olivia's presence. The house was livelier, dotted with scents of homemade desserts and the sound of adult laughter floating down hallways. At times, Sophia even felt glimpses of maternal care from Olivia, though it was never the same warmth she had known with Clara. "Sophia," Olivia would say in a cooing voice, "I've booked us a day at the spa. Father says you've been working so hard at school. You deserve a treat." The words made Sophia's heart lift for a second, but she often sensed an undercurrent, a subtle shift in Olivia's gaze that she couldn't quite decipher. Victor, always trying to maintain harmony, would pat Sophia's shoulder. "You see," he'd say, "Olivia just wants what's best for you." As the months passed, however, small cracks began to form in Olivia's charming exterior. One evening, after a family dinner, Olivia commented on Sophia's table manners. It was a casual remark, but the note of condescension in her voice made Sophia squirm in her seat. "Sophia, dear," Olivia said, "you really should remember to place your napkin on your lap before eating. And it's polite to dab your mouth before reaching for your water glass." Victor frowned slightly, sensing tension. Sophia apologized, feeling uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, I'll remember that next time," she mumbled. Yet Olivia's half-smile indicated her satisfaction at correcting Sophia. These criticisms escalated slowly, first about table manners, then about Sophia's clothes, her grades, even her tone of voice. Victor would interject occasionally, "Come now, Olivia, you're being too hard on her," but his attempts to temper Olivia's critiques only resulted in fleeting quiet. One weekend, Sophia overheard Olivia on the phone in the living room. "Yes, it's a sweet arrangement," she said. "Victor dotes on me, and the girl, well, she's old enough to mind her own business." The words stung, cementing the uneasy feeling Sophia had been trying to ignore. She retreated to her room, tears threatening to escape. What hurt more than the words was the dismissive way Olivia seemed to see her, like a mere inconvenience standing between her and Victor's full attention. Sophia confided in her best friend, Lily, about Olivia's increasingly controlling nature. They sat on a bench at their local park, the sun casting long shadows over the grass. "Maybe she's just adjusting," Lily suggested, trying to be supportive. "Step-parents can sometimes be tough at first." Sophia nodded but bit her lip. She couldn't shake the sense that there was more to Olivia than met the eye. When Victor announced his intentions to marry Olivia, Sophia feigned happiness. She didn't want to deny her father a chance at companionship. On the day of the small ceremony, Sophia wore a pale blue dress with a satin belt, while Olivia dazzled in a form-fitting gown. Throughout the reception, Olivia mingled and charmed the guests, occasionally casting fleeting glances in Sophia's direction. Each glance felt like a reminder that a power shift was underway, even if no one else seemed to notice it. By the end of the night, as Olivia and Victor danced to a gentle tune, Sophia sat alone, clutching the ring hidden under her dress. She twisted it anxiously, silently praying that her sense of foreboding was a mere product of her grief for her mother. Little did she know that the union solidified that day would change her life in ways she never anticipated. In the glow of the wedding candles, Sophia could almost hear Clara's voice. "Remember your strength. She would need it." Life settled into a new routine after the wedding. Olivia wasted no time in reorganizing the household. She decided when meals were prepared, how the furniture should be arranged, and which extracurriculars Sophia should pursue. Victor, torn between pleasing his new wife and ensuring Sophia's well-being, often found himself at a loss. He had never been a confrontational man, and Olivia's sharp tongue cut deeply whenever her authority was questioned. One afternoon, while Sophia was doing homework in the kitchen, Olivia paced the room, listing her demands. "We're having company this weekend, Sophia," she announced. "I need you to clean up the living room, dust the shelves, and ensure every piece of glassware is spotless." Sophia nodded, confusion and frustration swirling within. "But, Olivia, I have a big exam on Monday. I really need to study," she ventured. Olivia's gaze turned icy, her voice dripping with contempt. "You will do as you're told. Education is important, but you need to learn practical skills as well. Besides, there will be time for both if you manage your time correctly." The silent threat hung in the air. Not wanting to escalate matters, Sophia turned her attention to cleaning. She hardly recognized her own home anymore, as each corner now bore Olivia's imprint. Despite these tensions, Victor tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. He continued to check on Sophia's progress in school, praising her for good grades, and sharing inside jokes about Clara's quirky habits. On evenings when Olivia was out socializing, father and daughter would watch old family videos of Clara cooking, laughing at the camera, and singing lullabies. These private moments felt sacred, but they grew increasingly rare as Olivia inserted herself into every aspect of their lives. However, Victor's health soon started to decline. What began as occasional bouts of dizziness and fatigue turned into frequent visits to the doctor. Sophia was distraught, recalling how she had watched her mother suffer. She silently prayed Victor's condition wasn't as dire. Olivia, meanwhile, seemed more annoyed than concerned. Whenever Victor mentioned scheduling a checkup, she would remark on how inconvenient it was for her routine. "Victor, darling," she'd say with forced concern, "we'll have to move the dinner party if you're going to the hospital again." Over time, Victor found himself bedridden more days than not, needing rest and medical supervision. Doctors were uncertain about the cause, possibly an immune disorder or a rare virus. Sophia's heart sank each time she passed her father's room. The hum of machinery and the smell of antiseptics replaced the sound of music and joyous conversation. More than anything, she wanted to be there for him as he had been for her after Clara's death. Olivia, however, seized the reins of the household fully. She controlled Victor's medication schedule, managed the finances, and started issuing commands with an iron fist. "Sophia, you will take over the laundry," she'd say. "And don't think I don't notice when the clothes aren't folded neatly." Any attempts Sophia made to stand up for herself were met with cold disregard or sneering remarks. "I'm just keeping this house in order," Olivia would retort. In the midst of these upheavals, Lily continued to be Sophia's confidant. They often met at the library after school, the only place where Sophia found quiet solace. "I feel like I'm losing my dad," Sophia confided one day, tears forming in her eyes. "And Olivia is taking over everything." Lily squeezed her hand. "You have to hang on," she said. "Just remember the ring and your mother's words." Sophia took Lily's advice to heart, often slipping the ring off its chain to examine it closely. Its gleam reminded her of Clara's bright spirit. Sometimes, in the stillness of night, she would press it to her lips, imagining it was a doorway to her mother's calming presence. Though the days grew harder, the memory of Clara and her father's once vital self fueled Sophia's resolve. She knew she had to endure, to hope, and to remain steadfast, just as her mother had taught her. She had no inkling that the harshest blow was still on the horizon. For now, she survived each day by leaning on the ring's symbolism. Love endures. Even as Olivia's demeanors grew more aggressive and Victor's health weakened, Sophia clung to that mantra. The shifting family dynamic weighed heavily on her shoulders, but her spirit was not yet broken. Little did she know, this crucible of adversity would shape her into a person stronger than she ever imagined. The day Victor passed away felt like a nightmare from which Sophia could not awaken. She recalled standing at his bedside, her hand entwined with his limp fingers, as he took his last breath. His final words were whispered encouragements for Sophia to live a life filled with purpose and integrity. A wave of sorrow crashed over her, reminiscent of the day she lost her mother. Numbness wrapped around her like a shroud. She was, at that moment, consumed by grief and anchored only by the presence of her dear friend Lily, who clutched her other hand. The funeral was a solemn affair. Neighbors and distant relatives offered condolences, but Olivia's demeanor was strangely stoic. She stood by the casket in a black lace dress, greeting visitors with perfunctory politeness. Sophia found it odd that Olivia shed few tears. When it was all over, Sophia returned to the house she had once called her home, only to be met with an atmosphere as cold and unwelcoming as a stranger's estate. The next morning, Olivia summoned Sophia to the living room. Without any trace of empathy, Olivia declared her plans for the house. "Your father left everything to me," she announced, waving a stack of papers. Sophia's heart hammered in her chest. "But what about me?" she managed to utter. Olivia's expression was venomous. "You're an adult now, or close enough. I have no obligation to keep you under this roof." Sophia's stomach churned. She was only 18, still in her final year of high school. "I can't just leave," she pleaded. "I have nowhere to go." Olivia's only response was a sardonic smirk. "That's hardly my problem." Summoning a wave of theatrical disdain, Olivia reached for the precious ring that had once been Clara's. She ripped it off Sophia's hand, causing a sharp pain. With a dramatic flourish, she tossed it at Sophia's feet, the metal clinking ominously against the tiled floor. Anguished, Sophia scrambled to pick it up, her mind swirling with memories of Clara. Olivia's voice cut through like shards of glass. "Take that worthless trinket and get out." Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes. In that moment, she could almost feel Clara's protective aura around her, as if urging her to stand up. But fear and heartbreak made her words falter. She collected her things, just a backpack's worth of clothes and a few keepsakes, and stepped out of the house. The door slammed behind her, a jarring punctuation to the life she had known. Outside, the crisp air stung her cheeks. She looked at the ring in her palm, her vision blurred by tears. All the love and warmth she had once felt within those walls had been replaced by cruelty and rejection. She thought about staying with Lily or extended family, but her father's life insurance papers and any inheritance she might have claimed were apparently in Olivia's grasp. She felt powerless, her mind reeling with possibilities of what to do next. With shaky steps, she walked to the bus stop, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She dialed Lily's number. When her friend answered, her concerned voice was the only kindness Sophia had received that day. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered into the phone. Lily insisted she come stay with her. "My parents will understand," Lily said. "We can figure this out." Yet even Lily's generosity came with limitations. Her family lived in a cramped apartment, barely able to accommodate their own needs. After a few days of couch surfing, Sophia realized she had to find a more permanent solution. She was determined to finish high school, to work odd jobs if necessary, to carve out a path forward, because that ring demanded she not surrender to hopelessness. As the sun dipped below the horizon on her fourth night without a home, Sophia found herself rummaging for discounted meals at a convenience store. The ring felt heavier than ever in her pocket. Part of her was furious at Olivia's cruelty. Another part wrestled with fear that the future held nothing but endless hardship. Still, Clara's voice, carried by memory, whispered in the recesses of her mind. "Your strength is in your perseverance, my darling." Thus began Sophia's first steps into a world devoid of safety nets. She had only her mother's ring, a resolve to graduate high school, and the faint flicker of hope that one day she would rise above these circumstances. Little did she know, her darkest days were simultaneously setting the stage for an incredible transformation, one that would eventually reunite her with the very home from which she had just been banished. Sophia woke each morning with a knot in her stomach. She would roll off Lily's living room couch, fold the blankets neatly, and pretend she was fine. The truth was that she felt like a trespasser. Lily's parents were kind enough, but their finances were already stretched thin, and having an extra mouth to feed only added to their burden. "You can stay as long as you need," Lily's mother insisted, but guilt gnawed at Sophia's conscience. Desperate for independence, Sophia started hunting for part-time jobs. She spent hours scrolling through online classifieds at the local library. With no stable address and minimal work experience, the search was an uphill battle. Eventually, she found a small cafe willing to hire her for afternoon shifts. The pay was meager, but it was a start. She juggled her studies with the cafe job, returning home late, exhaustion etched on her features. Months slipped by in this grueling pattern. Lily would see how pale Sophia looked and tried to help with her studies. "You can't let your grades drop," Lily would remind her. "College might be your way out of this mess." Sophia nodded, but her focus often wandered to more immediate concerns. How would she pay for her phone bill? Did she have enough money for the city bus? What if Lily's parents changed their minds? An unexpected glimmer of hope appeared one afternoon. Sophia was closing the cafe when a friendly customer struck up a conversation. He was a middle-aged entrepreneur named Roger, who commended her hard work and grace under pressure. "I've seen you here every day," he said. "I admire your diligence. Are you in school?" Embarrassed, Sophia explained her situation in brief. Roger listened attentively, then handed her a business card. "I run a small tech startup nearby. We need part-time administrative help. If you're interested, give me a call." Sophia's heart soared. The next day, she nervously dialed the number. Within a week, she was working limited hours at the tech firm, mostly after school, handling data entry and making coffee runs for the staff. The pay was better than the cafe, and the environment encouraged personal growth. Over time, Roger became something of a mentor, offering life advice and gently nudging Sophia to stay focused on her studies. She often thanked him profusely, but Roger would smile, reminding her that he saw in her a spark of determination that people rarely possess. Despite the incremental improvements, nights remained a struggle. Sophia eventually found a tiny room to rent from an elderly couple who charged minimal rent in exchange for light housekeeping. The room was cramped, barely fitting a twin bed and a small desk, but it was hers. She thanked Lily's family tearfully on the day she moved out, vowing to repay their kindness someday. Although Lily insisted no repayment was necessary, Sophia felt a deep sense of gratitude mixed with relief that she was no longer imposing on them. Early each morning, before heading to school, Sophia would examine Clara's ring. She noticed every detail, the etched pattern along the band, the delicate gemstone that caught even the faintest hint of light. It was a daily ritual that reminded her of why she persisted. Through heartbreak, displacement, and financial insecurity, the ring remained a steady symbol of the love she had lost but also the future she still believed in. One day, while sorting files at Roger's office, Sophia overheard a conversation about weekend real estate seminars. Curious, she lingered by the open door. Roger and his colleague were discussing how property investments could change the financial trajectory of a person's life. Intrigued, Sophia asked Roger if she could attend the seminar. He readily agreed and even covered her entrance fee, convinced it would broaden her perspective. That weekend, Sophia sat in the seminar's front row, mesmerized by the concepts of leveraging assets, identifying undervalued properties, and building equity. Though the jargon initially confused her, she sensed the possibilities it hinted at. During a break, she approached one of the speakers, asking timid but earnest questions about starting a real estate portfolio on a shoestring budget. The speaker offered a condensed explanation of how one could begin with small properties and gradually expand. Leaving the seminar, a seed of ambition was planted in Sophia's mind. She couldn't yet articulate how or when, but she suddenly imagined herself dabbling in real estate, forging a path that would grant her stability. That night, in her cramped little room, she laid out a notebook and scribbled down everything she'd learned. Financing strategies, the importance of patience, and the long-term perspective needed to succeed. She also underlined one key principle: start with whatever you have. Sophia gazed at the ring again. A wave of determination surged through her. "Mom," she whispered into the stillness, "I'm going to make you proud. I'll climb out of this hole Olivia tossed me into. One day, I'll stand on my own 2 feet." She didn't know the ring itself would become a turning point in her journey, but her faith in resilience was unwavering. Step by arduous step, she walked the path that would ultimately transform her life. As Sophia neared high school graduation, her part-time job and relentless studying left little room for a social life. Yet she found fulfillment in each incremental achievement: a stellar grade on a math exam, a successful presentation in English class, or a compliment from Roger about her administrative work. After graduation, she enrolled in night classes at a local community college to continue her education, focusing on business fundamentals. Money, however, remained tight. Between rent, tuition, and daily expenses, Sophia barely scraped by. She often glanced at her mother's ring, tempted by the idea of selling it. But each time, she remembered Clara's final words, and the ring felt like a lifeline connecting her to the past. Parting with it seemed unthinkable, until a financial crisis forced her hand. Out of nowhere, her elderly landlords decided to sell their house, leaving Sophia on the brink of homelessness yet again. Panicked, she scrambled to find a new place she could afford. Though she was earning slightly more through her job at the tech startup, a deposit and first month's rent were still beyond her current savings. After an evening of tears and pacing her small room, she made the agonizing decision to pawn her mother's ring. She took the ring to a well-lit pawn shop on a busy street corner. The pawnbroker, a burly man with a bushy mustache, examined it under a magnifying glass. "It's a nice antique," he said, "but we need to run a few tests before I can quote a price." Sophia's stomach churned. She hated the thought of haggling over something so personally valuable. She paced back and forth, waiting anxiously. After some time, the broker returned with a perplexed expression. "I don't have the equipment to properly appraise this piece. It seems to be older and more unique than I initially thought. You might want to consult a specialty auction house." He handed her a business card for a reputable jewelry auction firm. "They'll give you a fair assessment. I'd hate to give you peanuts for something that might be quite valuable." Sophia thanked him and clutched the ring close. Anxiety twisted her insides. She had expected the ring to be worth a few $100s, maybe enough to cover her moving costs. The prospect that it could be worth more felt surreal, and a bit nerve-wracking. The very next day, she mustered her courage and visited the auction house. In a sleek, modern office, she was greeted by a slender older gentleman in a tailored suit who introduced himself as Mr. Remington, a seasoned appraiser. Mr. Remington placed the ring under a high-powered magnifier, examining every nook and cranny. He then consulted multiple reference books, occasionally making astonished clicking sounds with his tongue. Finally, he turned to Sophia, his eyes gleaming. "Young lady, do you have any idea what you possess?" Her heart pounded, and she shook her head. "This ring," Mr. Remington explained, "is an 18th-century heirloom with a remarkably rare gemstone. A piece like this, especially in such pristine condition, could fetch millions at a specialized auction." Sophia nearly dropped to her knees, the room spinning. Her mother's ring? Worth millions? All these years, she had cherished it purely for its sentimental value, never dreaming of its enormous monetary worth. Mr. Remington smiled kindly. "I suspect it was passed down through a long line of women, yes? It's not uncommon for families to overlook the commercial value of heirlooms that carry deep personal meaning." Unsure how to react, Sophia felt equal parts thrill and guilt. She recalled her mother's words about resilience and love. Could she truly sell something so precious? Yet, the potential windfall could revolutionize her life. She stammered out her questions about how auctions worked and what portion she would receive after fees. Mr. Remington patiently explained the process, suggesting they set a reserve price to protect her from underselling. "It's wise to have a base price. Given this item's provenance, collectors may bid ferociously." In the weeks that followed, Sophia wrestled with her conscience. She often woke in a cold sweat, agonizing over whether selling the ring was a betrayal of Clara's memory. But as her financial woes mounted, she knew she had to try. On the day of the auction, she dressed in her best business attire, an outfit borrowed from Lily, and arrived at the auction house with her heart lodged in her throat. The bidding opened at a staggering sum. Hands shot up around the room, individuals from various backgrounds competing to claim the treasure. Each new bid escalated beyond Sophia's wildest dreams. Finally, the gavel fell at a price so high it seemed unreal. Stunned, she stood there, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or faint. She had just walked away with a life-altering fortune. Moments later, she sat down with Mr. Remington, who congratulated her. "You've made a wise decision, dear. This kind of money can set you on a path for true independence." Sophia thanked him and quietly left the building. Outside, she paused on the sidewalk, tears slipping down her cheeks. She whispered a trembling gratitude to Clara. "Mom, you gave me more than I ever realized. I promise I'll use this gift wisely." The ring had left her possession, but its legacy would live on in the opportunities it had opened. With the proceeds from the ring's sale, Sophia paid off her immediate debts and secured a comfortable apartment in a safe neighborhood. For the first time in years, she had a real sense of security. Yet she was determined not to squander her windfall. She recalled the real estate seminar she had attended and all the notes she had taken. Now, she had the capital to act on those ideas. She approached Roger for advice, and he put her in touch with a respected financial planner. Together, they crafted a strategy focused on diversifying her investments, but with a strong emphasis on real estate. Sophia started small. She purchased a modest duplex on the outskirts of the city and quickly renovated it, learning firsthand the complexities of dealing with contractors and city permits. Despite the headaches, she felt alive, as if she was building not just properties but a future. Before long, she leveraged the income from the first property to buy a second, then a third. Each purchase brought new lessons in negotiation, property management, and market research. She spent late nights poring over housing data, trying to spot emerging neighborhoods ripe for development. Occasionally, she confided in Lily about her progress, who marveled at how far she had come. "You're amazing, Sophia," Lily gushed over dinner one night. "I still can't believe you were living on my couch less than 2 years ago." Sophia's phone buzzed constantly with calls from contractors, real estate agents, and potential business partners. The once timid girl who had trembled in the face of Olivia's disdain was now a savvy negotiator, unafraid to walk away from a bad deal. Her reputation grew in the local industry. Where others saw dilapidated houses, she saw hidden gems waiting to be polished. Within a few years, her portfolio expanded to a sprawling collection of residential and commercial properties. Success, however, was not without its challenges. She battled unscrupulous businesspeople who tried to take advantage of her. She endured market slumps that forced her to adapt and pivot her strategies. Through it all, she held on to the memory of her mother's fortitude. Even though she had sold a ring, its aura of resilience lingered like a guiding compass. On tough days, she'd whisper, "I am the daughter of Clara," as if calling on a long lineage of strong women to bolster her resolve. As her wealth grew, so did her philanthropic side. Remembering what it felt like to be homeless and desperate, Sophia launched a charitable foundation to help underprivileged youth find stable housing and gain financial literacy. She sponsored night classes and career workshops, often attending in person to share her story. In these interactions, she found a sense of purpose beyond mere profit. "It's more than just business," she told her foundation's board. "We have the power to transform lives." By her mid-20s, Sophia was known in financial circles as a wunderkind, an unstoppable force in the real estate arena. Newspapers wrote articles about her meteoric rise, praising her innovative approach to revitalizing run-down communities. She spoke at conferences, receiving standing ovations for her inspiring journey from near homelessness to multi-million-dollar success. With every new milestone, she silently thanked her parents for instilling in her the perseverance that underpinned her accomplishments. But despite her achievements, a tiny part of her still harbored the memory of that day Olivia cast her out. She no longer dwelled on the pain, but the memory remained like a faint scar that never fully healed. Late at night, as she sat in her penthouse overlooking the city skyline, she would occasionally wonder what Olivia was doing. Would the older woman even recognize her now? Fate, it seemed, had a sense of timing. One afternoon, while finalizing the purchase of a large real estate portfolio, Sophia's eyes scanned the list of properties. She froze when she saw an address that echoed from her past. The house, her childhood home, was listed among the assets. She felt her pulse quicken, a storm of emotions stirring. After years of forging her own empire, she was now, in a twist of destiny, the new owner of the place she had once been banished from. She said nothing to her colleagues about the significance of the property. But inside, her mind whirled with memories both sweet and bitter. Her mother's laughter, her father's gentle wisdom, the day she was forced out, everything coalesced into a single point of introspection. Holding the deed in her hand, she realized that life had come full circle. The question now was what she intended to do about it. Sophia debated for weeks whether to visit her old home. She worried that stepping onto the property again might unearth too many painful memories. Yet, the pull was irresistible. This was the house where Clara had baked fresh bread on Saturdays, where Victor had tucked her in at night, where she had experienced her first heartbreak. It was also the place Olivia had claimed as her dominion, casting Sophia out without remorse. Finally, on a crisp autumn morning, she decided to go. She dressed casually in jeans and a warm coat, hoping to remain inconspicuous. As she drove through the familiar neighborhood, her heart fluttered. Much had changed over the years, new shops, renovated houses, but the winding streets still felt like home in a way no other place ever had. When she arrived at the house, she noticed chipped paint on the shutters and an overgrown lawn. Once a cozy cottage filled with laughter, it now looked weathered and tired. Her chest tightened at the sight. Memories flashed before her eyes. Clara humming in the garden, Victor reading the newspaper on the porch, and a teenage Sophia skipping down the driveway. Gathering her courage, she knocked on the front door. A tense silence followed. Eventually, the door creaked open, revealing Olivia. Gone was the polished poise she once flaunted. She wore a faded bathrobe, her hair disheveled. Her eyes scanned Sophia's face without recognition at first. Sophia noticed the lines of worry and exhaustion etched into Olivia's features. The older woman's gaze flickered with confusion until, suddenly, a spark of realization dawned. "Sophia!" Olivia's voice cracked. Sophia swallowed hard, nodding curtly. She half expected Olivia to slam the door. But the older woman just stood there, gaping. A swirl of conflicting emotions enveloped Sophia: vindication, pity, anger, and sorrow. Despite all that Olivia had done, Sophia couldn't help but register how defeated she looked. "May I come in?" Sophia asked softly, uncertain of what she was even looking for. Olivia stepped aside, allowing her entry. The interior was dimly lit and cluttered, the furniture worn down. A stale odor clung to the air, hinting at a lack of housekeeping. It was a far cry from the immaculate fortress Olivia had once run with an iron grip. They moved to the living room. For a moment, neither spoke. Sophia's gaze fell upon the fireplace mantel, once adorned with family photos. Now, it held only dust. She recognized the spot where a photo of Clara used to stand. An ache spread in her chest. Olivia finally broke the silence. How did you find me?" Her tone was neither confrontational nor apologetic, merely bewildered. Sophia drew a breath, fighting to keep her composure. "I recently acquired a batch of properties. This house was part of the package. I'm the new owner." She paused, letting the words resonate. Olivia's eyes widened in disbelief. "You own this house?" Her voice was tinged with a disbelieving tremor. For a brief moment, Sophia felt a pang of satisfaction. This was the same woman who had deemed her worthless. "Yes," Sophia said. "I came here to see what condition it was in. I didn't expect you to still be living here." Olivia's shoulders sagged. She looked around the house as if seeing it for the first time. "I couldn't afford to keep it up," she admitted. "After your father passed, some investments, they failed. I lost a lot of money. People I trusted robbed me. My health isn't great." Sophia steadied her trembling hands. She remembered the day she was cast out with nothing but that ring. The memory spurred an urge to lash out, to remind Olivia how cruel she had been. Yet, staring at the frail woman before her, the anger fizzled into a somber pity. Clara's teachings about compassion and dignity echoed in Sophia's mind. They spoke in measured tones, stumbling over words. Olivia explained how she'd had no one else to rely on. She apologized grudgingly, though it was more out of desperation than genuine remorse. Sophia's mind replayed every humiliation she had endured, every tear she had shed. And yet, she found she had no desire to inflict further harm. In that moment, she realized this was more than a meeting of estranged family members. This was the closure she had never received. Life had come full circle, giving Sophia power over a past that once controlled her. Whether Olivia deserved her mercy was another question altogether. Taking one final look around, Sophia felt the swirling of destiny. She would decide her next steps carefully. Sophia took a seat on the old couch, ignoring the swirling dust particles as she settled. Olivia remained standing, her posture stiff, as though bracing for a verbal onslaught. The temptation to recount every injustice flickered through Sophia's mind. She could demand an apology for tossing the ring, for stealing her inheritance, for discarding her like a piece of trash. Instead, she began calmly. "I'm not here to dredge up the past," Sophia said, maintaining steady eye contact. "But I need you to know that what you did nearly destroyed me. For a time, I had nothing. No home, no family support, no financial security." Her voice faltered slightly, but she gathered herself. "I only survived because I had friends who helped me, and a determination not to let you break me." Olivia's expression darkened. She crossed her arms as if to protect herself from these words. "You don't understand. I was grieving Victor's death in my own way. I panicked about finances. She stopped, as though sensing her justifications sounded hollow. Slowly, her gaze lowered. "But I do see now how terrible it was for me to drive you out with nothing. I'm sorry." An awkward hush filled the living room. Sophia studied the woman who had once been so formidable. Now she stood there, an aging figure grappling with regret and a precarious financial situation. Did she deserve to be thrown out just as she had thrown Sophia out? The corners of Sophia's mouth tightened as she weighed her response. "I can't change what happened," Sophia replied. "Neither can you. But I also can't pretend it didn't shape me." The finality in her tone was palpable. "This house, though, is part of my portfolio now. Legally, I can evict you if I want. But I'm not you, Olivia." The words lingered. She could almost feel the tension rising, waiting for the pronouncement of Olivia's fate. Olivia sank into a chair, exhaling as though she'd been holding her breath for years. "I have nowhere to go," she admitted, her eyes rimmed with vulnerability. Sophia's emotions clashed violently. Memories of sleeping on a friend's couch, the indignity of rummaging for loose change, the late nights of fear and uncertainty. She recalled the ring, the biggest symbol of her mother's grace and her own transformation. Selling it had given her the means to climb out of despair. She cleared her throat. "I won't evict you yet. But if you want to continue living here, you'll have to keep the property in good shape. I'll oversee repairs, and you'll be responsible for maintaining them. If it falls into disrepair again, I'll reconsider." She almost surprised herself with this magnanimity. A part of her had imagined relishing the sight of Olivia's downfall, but another part recognized that stooping to vindictive behavior would only poison her hard-won peace. Olivia stared at Sophia as if she were an enigma. "You'd let me stay," she whispered, scarcely believing her ears. Sophia nodded. "On my terms. No destruction, no subleasing, no negligence. And you have to abide by a landlord-tenant agreement that we'll formalize. I'm running a business, after all." She added the last part with an edge, ensuring Olivia understood that this generosity was not a sign of weakness but a deliberate choice. For a moment, Olivia stared at the worn carpet, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. She murmured, I understand. Thank you." The words sounded sincerely grateful, and Sophia felt a pang of closure. She had wrested control of her destiny from a woman who once wielded unbridled power over her life, and she was extending a hand of reluctant mercy. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the gravity of the situation enveloping them. Finally, Sophia stood, brushing off the dust from her jeans. She scanned the living room one last time, recalling happier times. "I'll have my legal team draft the paperwork," she said. Olivia rose, nodding meekly. As they walked to the door, something compelled Olivia to speak. "Sophia, if I could go back, I'd do things differently." Sophia paused in the doorway, the crisp autumn air filtering through. She offered a small, measured smile. "I hope so," she replied. She meant it, too. With that, she stepped outside, feeling a strange mixture of relief, sadness, and triumph. The old chapter was finally closing. She had faced her past and met it with composure and grace, qualities her mother, Clara, had always embodied. In the months that followed, workers arrived to spruce up the house under Sophia's supervision. The porch was repaired, the walls were painted, and the yard was cleared of overgrown weeds. Olivia maintained a low profile, abiding by the contract's requirements. Sophia occasionally checked in, always in a professional capacity, to ensure the property's upkeep. Their interactions remained civil, a far cry from the bitter clash that once defined their relationship. Meanwhile, Sophia continued to expand her real estate empire. She ventured into commercial properties in bustling city centers, forming strategic partnerships with established investors. At networking events, she was frequently hailed as a self-made success story. Whenever a journalist or aspiring entrepreneur asked about her key to resilience, She spoke of the significance of faith in one's inner strength. Yet, she rarely divulged the personal anguish that had set her on this path. She preferred to let her achievements speak for themselves. A year after reclaiming ownership of her childhood home, Sophia felt an unexpected urge to do something more with the property. Instead of simply renting it out, she considered turning it into a community center for underprivileged youth, an homage to her own journey. Weighing her options, she approached Olivia one day with the idea. "I'm thinking of turning this place into a center where kids can get tutoring, workshops, maybe even a small food pantry," she said. Olivia's eyes went wide. "That means I'd have to leave," she stated, more as an observation than a protest. Sophia nodded. "We can find you another property in my portfolio, somewhere more manageable. I'll let you stay under similar conditions, if you'd like." She paused, unsure whether Olivia would lash out or beg to remain. Instead, Olivia pursed her lips, contemplating. "Honestly, I'm not happy here," she admitted softly. "This house holds too many ghosts. If you're offering something else, I'd be grateful." The conversation was brief but remarkably cordial. Sophia found herself marveling at how time, and the humbling forces of life, could alter people so profoundly. The transition took several weeks, and once Olivia had moved to a modest apartment in another neighborhood, Sophia swung into action. Her foundation staff worked alongside contractors to renovate the home into a welcoming space. Bright murals adorned the walls, reading nooks filled corners, and a computer lab took shape in the old living room. On opening day, local kids and families explored the new facilities with awe, excited to learn and connect. In a quiet moment, Sophia stood on the porch, recalling Clara's laughter echoing through these walls. A tear slipped down her cheek, but it was a tear of joy and fulfillment. Word spread of Sophia's new community project, and soon dignitaries and media personalities arrived to celebrate the initiative. At a ribbon-cutting ceremony, Sophia spoke to a crowd gathered on the front lawn. "This house once represented sorrow for me," she confessed, voice unwavering. "But today, it stands as a beacon of hope and opportunity for everyone who sets foot inside. We can't change our past, but we can shape our future, and the future of others, by choosing to act with compassion." After the applause subsided, Lily approached her with tears shining in her eyes. "Your mom would be so proud," she said, hugging Sophia tight. Sophia squeezed back, grateful for her longtime friend's steadfast support. "I still feel her presence here," she whispered. "It's like I've come full circle, but in a way that heals instead of hurts." In the days that followed, Sophia received a letter from Olivia. Inside was a simple note. "Thank you for not treating me the way I treated you. I'm trying to be better." Enclosed was a small photograph of Clara, Victor, and a much younger Sophia, a snapshot Olivia must have found while packing up. It was taken on one of those joyous days long before heartbreak tainted the family. Overcome by emotion, Sophia ran her fingers over the image, cherishing the memory of those happier times. As the community center flourished, Sophia found more meaning in her work than ever before. She continued to build her real estate business, employing ethical practices that focused on community improvement rather than quick profits. Her foundation expanded its programs, offering scholarships and mentorship opportunities. Each initiative carried forward the spirit of the ring's legacy, the love and resilience that Clara had instilled in her. In quiet moments, she would reflect on everything that had transpired: the ring, the exile, the fortune, the confrontation, and now, the eventual forgiveness. Each fragment of her journey had contributed to the person she had become. Standing on the porch of her old home, now a bustling haven for youth in need, she felt the solace of closure radiate through her. Clara's ring was gone, but its essence lived on in every act of kindness, every life changed for the better. Where once there was pain, now there was purpose. And as the sunlight poured over the newly transformed property, Sophia smiled, secure in the knowledge that true power does not stem from revenge, but from compassion, empathy, and the unwavering desire to honor the legacies of those who came before. The end. I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please go ahead and generously hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating tales like this. We'd love to hear from you. What lessons have you learned from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next story.